Hi everyone, and welcome to another lockdown video. This one's very exciting. No sarcasm there. Today we're going to have a look at a midterm review. Now, you should be at the point where you've done 4 photo shoots by now, which is the midway point this year. We're looking for 8 shoots in total, 8 final photographs. In the midterm review, basically, we're trying to understand how to drive progress by reflecting on strengths and weaknesses. So it's about looking back at what you've been doing, citing strengths to build on and weaknesses to to act on, really. The success criteria for a good midterm review: you want to recap on your aims, so going back to that plan at the start and just recapping that so that the marker knows exactly what you're trying to do. Secondly, critique creative strengths and weaknesses. So that's to do with creative aspects of your photographs, compositional devices that you've used. Have you used equipment in a creative manner? In order to create, or maybe you haven't. Maybe that's a weakness. Maybe that's something that you think, looking back on my creative research, I haven't really managed to do a lot of the things I said I would do. Have you used props? Have you used long exposures? Is there variety in these 4 shoots, or are they similar? So it's good to think about that and reflect on that. Critique the technical strengths and weaknesses. That's your camera handling techniques. How well have you achieved what you set out to do? Critiquing planning and logistics. Now, what we mean by that is basically looking at your plans and citing what's been useful. So maybe researching photographers has been really helpful for you because you've been really inspired by someone, or maybe writing the little mini plans has been helpful, or the location research. I'll go over this in more detail. However, it's basically, I'm looking for some kind of critique on the process. And then finally, conclude with clear targets for progression. So that's about saying, I'm doing this well, but from now until the end of the project, I want to do this, that, and that. And as long as you can explain what that is, that's all that matters. Now, again, I'm showing you this table, and this is a good place to start. Looking at composition at the top, that's obviously you're focusing on creative aspects, and the same with visual elements. And the technical skill at the bottom is obviously referring to technical aspects. So, if you are struggling, you could have a look at all your photo shoots, look at your contact sheets, and try and kind of pinpoint some things here. So, maybe you've used a range of compositional devices. I know a lot of people have. I know a lot of people have used leading lines really well within their photographs. I know there's lots of interesting use of symmetry, and I've seen that within images. But maybe you think, well, some of my photographs are slightly cluttered. And then when you're writing your midterm review, you could have the photograph next to it. So if you wrote the sentence, I feel some of my compositions are too cluttered. Moving forward, I'm going to try and use the rule of thirds more in order to act on that reflection. What you could have is a cluttered picture next to that statement, just to really show the marker that you're referring to images directly rather than just making it up. But yeah, you've got three columns here that you can write about, and really think about this, because these midterm reviews, they can be really useful, or it can just be ticking a box. Now, if you do it in I'm just going to tick a box way and get this done as quick as I can, it's not going to be that useful. This is an opportunity for you to look at your photographic practice and to write about it, and to think about, what am I doing well, what am I not doing well. And you might understand something, you might see something really, really clear. For example, I came back from a holiday once and realised all the horizons were squint in every single picture. Slightly squint. And you know how I feel about horizon lines being squint. And it's all to do with that reflection. So I looked at them and it bugged me. And as a response, now I make sure that the horizon lines are never squint. And it's about that. It's about looking, thinking about, you know, are my images always slightly soft focused? Or is there a clear focal point within my images? Or are my images far too busy? It's about asking yourselves these questions. You know, maybe a lot of your images are underexposed, and maybe you feel that you want to use exposure bracketing to give you free options when you take a photograph rather than just the one. But yeah, think about that. And like I've said before, there is the very good A-band 1 exemplar on Google Drive and on Google Classroom that you can bring up if you're struggling with a structure. What I've done within this page here is you have the example on the left, but on the right I've given a kind of breakdown of what I'm looking for with some key questions. And you'll see in the intro, what we're looking for is if you can recap on your aims, referring right back to that plan at the start, and even like a little brief introduction into sort of what you've been looking at so far in terms of technical and creative techniques, things that you've explored. It's a good place to start. You'll see you've got the next paragraph is looking at creativity. So write about creative approaches that have been taken and how they've been successful. And when you do that, if you can refer to specific shoots and specific photographs, that would be good. So you'll see within this paragraph, there's a photograph to the right of the paragraph, which is an example of a successful creative technique where images were projected onto a model. So straight away the marker said, "Oh, right, she's really thinking about this. She's picking out images." You don't have you can include more than two as you go through. You don't want to write about too many images though. This should be a sort of holistic evaluation of your shoots so far, rather than annotation on a particular image. So just be careful you don't go off on a tangent. Also, you have to ensure you refer to areas that you want to improve creatively. So that comes back to your plan, or comes back to you've all conducted creative research. You might want to look back at your creative research and think, have I done any of the cool things that I researched? You know, have I played around with compositional techniques? Have I used lighting creatively? Have I taken photographs at night? Have I done a long exposure shoot? The main thing I want to say about creativity though is diversity. You will be marked this year on your final images, and within those final images they will want to see that you have tried different things. You're given 2 marks. One of them is for technical proficiency and the other one is for the diversity of your images, the creativity. So it's so important that you're not just taking 8 photo shoots of pretty much the same thing with the same techniques. The next paragraph you can write about technical proficiency. So what techniques have you found difficult so far? Maybe you've tried to take some images in low light and you've had issues with exposure. It's about being honest here. You know, if you do something you think all these images are underexposed or all these images are slightly soft, if you can recognise it and respond to it, you will get marks because it shows understanding. And also, what shoot do you feel you showed the most technical proficiency? Explain by referring to images. So again, what you see here is you see a little explanation and a photograph to the right, which looks like it's slightly underexposed, and there's an explanation of that. The next bit I find quite interesting, because you really need to think about this, is within the whole process. Now, I know in higher photography there's quite a bit of writing, there's a lot of research. What has been the most useful research that you've conducted in terms of helping you actually do your shoots. So perhaps you've looked at a photographer's work who's had a real influence on your work, and looking at other images has perhaps helped you understand what the big picture is and what you want to achieve. Maybe it's writing the plan. Maybe it's detailing, doing the plan table with all the details. Maybe that you find that really useful because you're able to look at the date that you're going to do the shoot and so forth. Maybe it's logistics. I don't know, but I need you to really think about what's been the most useful written part. Is it the reviewing? Is it after you've done the shoot? I always find reviewing my own work really, really useful because it allows me to push myself and notice things that haven't quite been as good as they could be. And again, the flip side is what do you think hasn't been useful, or what do you think you've struggled with? Again, it might be photographer research. You might not have found something that was really inspirational, or maybe you found the site logistics problematic. You want to put across the right attitude when you're writing about weaknesses, though. You don't want to say something along the lines of, "Oh, I thought site logistics was pointless," but you want to write about things that you think that you could do better in response. And then finally, the conclusion. So what's your main strength? What are you really pleased with? And what's your target for progressing? What's the thing that you want to do? If I was to think on my own photographic practice, I'm trying to come up with something off the cuff, really. I would say maybe my main strength is probably composition, with reportage photography. And the target for progression with me would probably be studio lighting or more interpretive shoots, setup shoots, because it's not really my comfort zone. I much rather photograph what's there rather than set something up. So I could give myself that as a target. You might be the opposite of that. But leave the marker on a note that you know you're on a journey here and you're going to do something that you've not done. And I think it's great to read that. When I marked for the SQA, if a kid's written, in the midterm review, I haven't used studio lighting. I don't really know how to use studio lighting, but I'm going to research it and I'm going to find out how I can create a low-key shot, so I can have more I would love to read something like that. So don't worry about pointing out things that you haven't done. And with this task, it does require 4 photo shoots to have been complete before you write this. If you haven't got the 4 done, if you can start writing it, and then you can probably bring in some other shoots later and leave it as a working draft. But it is a midterm review. I'm very much looking forward to reading these. You guys are working really, really hard. I'm very impressed with the work ethic during these difficult times. So if you can just do your best with this, it will be assessed, and have fun. Thank you.